Yeah, boy, we're live on Blab IM, and it is June 21st, and it's episode 136, and this is a Fantasy Football Auctioneer podcast. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer podcast is the official podcast of the fantasyfootballauction.com, the internet's only website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. I guess it's also the only podcast dedicated to fantasy football auctions, as I listen to you guys, an old podcast, Slim, back from week 3 of last year. I was stuck on the long bus to Toronto, and you guys headed it up without me. So anyways, it was interesting to listen back to. Anyways, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Fantasy Auction. You can like us on Facebook. We are facebook.com/Fantasy Football Auctioneer. We've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we're going to take a look at this. Primarily, we're going to start with the Scott Fish Bowl, a contest that we were in last year with a couple hundred experts from around fantasy football. We got to bring in one of our fans to join the league, and so there's 360 teams altogether. And our fan, he won the whole shebang, the whole as my mom would say, kit and caboodle. Derek Meyers, and he wrote a little article to put up on the website to talk about how he drafted a champion and the moves he made throughout the year in the playoffs in order to get him a championship. And some pretty impressive stuff. A guy can go up against all these experts and be a fan and win it all.
Yeah, I mean, I even if you're a quote unquote expert, I mean, I use that term loosely because
I'm a podcast
I hate that term. Yeah. I mean, I just think it'd be cool. I don't care how you get in there. Just to say I beat 360 other people that are pretty diehard fantasy football players is pretty awesome. And now this year it'll be, 480? So
480, yes.
Even that much tougher.
Yeah, it's crazy. 480 teams this year in Scott Fish Bowl, divisions of 12 that play off till about week 8, week 9, and then we start some playoffs within your pool, right? Within your division, you start some playoffs, and then you have cross pollination of divisions, and then you win conferences, and then conferences play against each other, and so I think it goes all the way to week 16 at that point. And last year with 360 teams, Derek Meyers was the guy. He was in my pool, or in my division, and got himself out of there like I did, but then I lost and he kept trucking. So it's pretty impressive stuff.
You'll see why.
Yeah, you'll see why, exactly. And 480 teams this year is pretty exciting. So Scott Fish, he's a writer. I'm going to get this wrong because I always get them mixed up. Is it Dynasty Football Warehouse, or where does Scott write for?
Fish?
Yeah.
DLF, I think.
I
think he's a DLF guy.
Yeah, maybe he is. I'm just going to pull him up on here, and he is a DLF guy. Yeah, Dynasty
he runs
League
all
football. And he does their
rookie
their
stuff.
their ADP and that type of stuff. So Scott Fish from Minnesota, I may add too, so relatively local-ish to us. And he runs this league basically out of the kindness of his heart. A lot of quote unquote experts, but all, websites and those types of things. There's lots of big prizes out there, from football guides all the way through to a subscription to our site. And he runs it all through MFL and sends, amazing updates, and runs a little web page that has tons of actually pretty cool stats about what's going on in the league too. Hey, Slim?
Yeah, no, he's phenomenal.
So scottfishbowl.com you can go to, and you can see right now it's showing right now. I just clicked on it. 19 days, 13 hours, 17 minutes, and 18 seconds until we start drafting. And just to give you some of the websites that are represented in Scott Fish Bowl, you've got Scout, you've got 4for4, the John Paulson. Football guys, there's about a dozen of them. RotoViz, it looks like there's about 25 of them. DLF, pretty much everybody that writes there. Yahoo, Heath Cummings from CBS, you've got Roto Underworld, NFL Fantasy, Matt Harmon, for instance, is in there. ESPN, boy, I could say FF Today, us, Dynasty Nerds, away you go. So there's lots of
stacked up.
It's pretty much everybody. So it's pretty cool that we get an opportunity to be in there. There's the three of us, a draft and a fan. So speaking of a fan, Slim, why don't you talk about how one of our fans, one of our listeners, can get themselves in there?
Yeah, so last year we did a little bit of a Twitter trivia. It was okay. We did it while I was at work one day, and it was a nightmare, the 2 hours where people were trying to answer because it was just so many tweets trying to keep track of who had right answers and wrong answers. But this year we're going to do something a little bit different from now and even before today. But just as the pod's out, I'll say now until midnight on June 26th. We're going to look back, and if you go on to iTunes and you rate and review the pod, positives, negatives, it doesn't matter. Just go on there, throw a rating down, give us some criticism, some constructive criticism, some comments, pump tires, whatever. We like it. We try and make us better with it, but we'll take one random fan of the reviews, and on June 27th on Twitter, we'll announce who that winner is, and we'll get in touch with you and let Scott know, and get you your spot in the fishbowl so you can start drafting at the start of July. Right.
And when you do, if you do enter something, I actually have on the website, on the podcast link, I think I still have it up right now. I think I have it up right now. If not, I'll make sure I have it up tonight. Just a little link. You can give us a quick little note about, that you entered, so we can get your email address and stuff, because not a lot of people put in their email address in an iTunes review. So you can do that too, just to make sure that we've got your entry. And also, if you are not an iPhone user or anti-Apple, you can also do it on Stitcher as well. That's an easy way for people with Android devices, or if somebody's still running a BlackBerry, we know a few guys, you wouldn't be using iTunes either. So Stitcher's an app you can run pretty much across all the other platforms too. So you can give us a rating on there too, and that'll help out, and we'll be able to see it as well. And then we'll just do a random entry through there, and away we go. So then that fan will be our fan in the Scott Fish Bowl for 2016, the Scott Fish Bowl 480. And then we'll just give them the information of what's going on. And like we were saying, tonight is Tuesday, June 21st. There's 19 days until the draft actually starts, so that we can get all of your stuff dialed in and get you ready to roll and help us defend the title as Fantasy Football Auction website folks.
Yes.
So anyway, so I guess what we should do, just to kind of help people along, and it's actually interesting to talk about, is so why don't we go through the article that Derek wrote that we're going to put on the website. Hopefully I'll try to get it up tonight. If not, I'll get it up tomorrow, but it will be up this week for sure. Why don't we take a quick little look at the article he wrote, and take a look at his team and kind of break down his process?
Yeah. So last week I was kind of thinking, and Derek has been a pretty avid follower of ours for sure the last year, and we talked to him through Twitter quite a bit, and
he's always got a question for the pod or whatever, right?
Yeah, and even just banter about when we post rankings and talk about players. He's always got some good insights and things, and I mean, clearly he knows his stuff. If he just took down 359 other fantasy football diehards, I guess you could say. So yeah, we kind of had the idea of, let's get a perspective of one, as a fan, as somebody who, might not do this for a living. I mean, we don't do it for a living either, but there are some people who fantasy football and football is their life. So let's see what a fan's insight was into going into something like this. What was their strategy like? I mean, it was a winning strategy. So what was it? So we also thought that, what are the chances that we'll ever have a representative from our group ever take tournament of this size down again. So let's try and pick his brain. Let's put it out there. Let's let, his followers and people that are in the fishbowl, people that want to be in it or get in it, let's let them have access to it. And if it helps somebody, that helps them. And, feel free to send a shout out to Derek on Twitter. We'll post his stuff.
At DA Meyers 10, that's
there you go.
Twitter handle.
Yep.
So
there you go.
I was just gonna break down the format here, Slim, as to what the fishbowl looks like. So 22 roster spots. It's 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and 4 flex spots. And one of those flexes can be a second quarterback. So it has so we would call it super flex, I guess, in that way. No kicker, no defense. Everyone starts with a $100 waiver wire, and it's a blind auction for the waiver. It's pretty standard-ish scoring, 4-point passing touchdown, 6 points otherwise, and it is a 0.25 point per carry too, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it's I wouldn't say
standard-ish as I look at it again.
This is with Scott, like he is constantly trying to find ways to equalize all these positions, and it literally makes it the toughest league I've ever played in to draft, because there is no ADP doesn't do you any good. Rankings don't really do you much good. It is literally you go by your feel and trying to predict runs on positions. It's crazy. And sometimes you're ahead of the curve. And if you're like me last year, you get a little bit behind the curve sometimes and you get hosed. But it makes it super fun. And I think even this year, I haven't checked the scoring. I've just logged in the other day, actually, so I held my spot. But I thought it might even be a tight end premium or something like that. No.
I'll tell you what it is this year. 4-point passing, 6-point rushing and receiving. It's a 0.25 rushing attempt, 0.5 point per reception. Tight ends get an extra 0.5. So tight ends are a full PPR and everyone else is a half PPR.
Yeah. It's going to be nuts. Like it just,
what does that look like?
It balances everything. I mean, so yeah, credit to Scott. I mean, his brain is always turning. He's got the weirdest leagues with the craziest settings. And I know he sent us an auction one a couple months ago, just that he was kicking all the ideas around, and it seemed crazy. I don't know. He's a mad scientist. I think he just sits around and just thinks of these weird ass things, but I give him credit.
I'm just pulling up last year's stuff so that I could find my team. If I can find it here somewhere. There's Myers. There's Uncle Buckets now. Just so we can have that to kind of.
Well, while you're doing that, maybe I'll start.
I don't necessarily have a draft. Yeah, go ahead. I got it all pulled up here.
I won't go through every player of his because there's 22 of them, but some of the notables I think that really helped him, and maybe some of them for sure that didn't. So he had the 8th overall pick, which to me is a good spot in a league like this. You're never waiting too long in between picks.
Actually, I have the draft pulled up right now too, which is kind of interesting. I know we're an auction, but this is I have the draft in front of me here, so we can take a look at what that looked like too. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, cool. So he had the 108, and I remember actually when this happened, he took Julio Jones at 108, and we talked on Twitter for a little while because I can't remember. I want to say like Des Bryant was around. There was another receiver that was there, and we were debating back and forth, him and myself, on why Julio might not have been the best pick there and why it should have been Dez, and kudos to him. Turned out to be the right pick. Marshawn Lynch was 205, maybe not the best. Cook's 308. I remember at this time last year, he was a pretty popular guy to go in that range. I think I took him at the back end of the 3rd as well. Calvin Benjamin, 405, that hurt him. 508 was Golden Tate. 605 was Andre Johnson, a bum. 708, Colin Kaepernick, bum.
His first quarterback in a super flex.
Yeah, but you look, of those first 8 picks, Kaepernick, Andre Johnson, Kelvin Benjamin, Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
Flopped.
3, 4
really.
Misses. Yeah.
I mean, if you look later, 11:08, he took Devontae Freeman. Clearly, he would have carried him for stretches last year. Here's, to me, the key. 13:08 was David Johnson. We know what he did down the stretch. He won a lot of people. He won Blister, our Dynasty League. I'm sure he won a lot of people leagues by his late season push. Again, if you go 16:05, he had Jordan Reed. To me, that would have been a huge pick for him late. A guy that off the top of my head, was he tight end 2, something like that? But anyway,
could be. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, after that, you're literally just getting into flyers. He, like his 2 quarterbacks, actually Mariota 10:05, that would have been good for him. He had Kaepernick, RG3 in the 9th round, Mariota in the 10th. And that was it. That's all he had at quarterback.
And if you look at his draft, like the team that was drafted, it was not like on paper, you're not going, whoa, this guy's going to win this league. I mean,
no,
when you're looking through it, right?
Probably not. I mean, he had, who was his running backs? Lynch. He didn't take another running back till the 8th, which was Rashad Jennings. Devontae Freeman. I don't think anyone was super excited about him. David Johnson, no one was super excited. Then he had guys like Terrence West, Fred Jackson, James Starks, Chris Polk. I mean, yeah, there wasn't tons going on there. Wide receivers on paper, I think after the draft were pretty strong, no doubt. Like Julio, Cooks, Kelvin Benjamin, Tate, that's your top 4. But once those injuries and stuff set in, he probably felt pretty shitty about his team, honestly. And this is the thing about this league too. I mean, you think that there isn't going to be much out there when you take 22 people, do 22 rounds in a 12-team, division. But there's always a few guys on waivers, especially at quarterback. We'll get into that. I know I played it a little bit, the waivers a little bit with quarterback last year, not with quite as much success as Derek did, but like he ended up taking Kirk Cousins later on.
Yeah.
And this is where it's
we picked up Robert Turbin later, which is that scoring some at some point? No. Spencer Ware. Yeah, like his team ends up, yeah. Anyway, sorry, go on.
I think he took AJ McCarron later. I know he said Blaine Gabbert. So yeah, he found these guys that kind of emerged, and they don't have to be studs. They just have to be throwing passes, and they're going to get you points. And this is one thing that's interesting about it too, as I find every division is completely different. And we talk about it with the 3 of us, and we're drafting to try and look for trends and stuff. But if one draft is valuing quarterbacks high and they start going early, like in mine, nobody did that. And I think in Blisters, guys were taking quarterbacks in the 1st round and the 2nd round. That didn't happen in my draft. So now they're just totally different from each other. And it makes it super interesting and really hard to predict.
Were 2 quarterbacks that came off the board. Like the 1st round was Andrew Luck, Lev Bell, Des Bryant, Antonio Brown. I had the 105. I took Adrian Peterson, and I was surprised at 105. I'm picking him up there. Eddie Lacy, Jamal Charles, and then Derek at 108 with Julio Jones. At 109 is Aaron Rodgers, then Gronk at 10, Odell Beckham at 11, and to round it off is Demaryius Thomas at 12. And then that guy, that Dave Majors from XN Sports on the turn goes Demaryius Thomas, Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson already at 201. But I guess with a 0.25 a carry, right? It does help things too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's guys like Cam Newton and Russell Wilson are just that little bit much more valuable. So yeah,
trying to see where Cam goes at 412, by the way, which would be different this year. Yeah, which would be different this year.
Yeah, 112.
Yeah, exactly.
At the latest, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's a one of a kind draft, that's for sure.
Well, I'm just looking at the 2nd round here. Majors goes Russell Wilson at 201. Then Jordy Nelson, Matt Forte, Arian Foster. Well, that didn't help. Derek at 205 takes Marshawn Lynch, and then Scott Fish, who was also in our division, along with Fantasy Taz and a couple of another fan at least, anyways, and somebody from ESPN and Roto World. Anyways, so Scott Fish, what did his look like? Scott went Jamal Charles, and then in the second round came back with CJ Anderson. So he goes running back. So Megatron's next, AJ Green, DeMarco Murray, LaShawn McCoy. I took AJ Green there at the 208, Randall Cobb, Jeremy Hill to round off the second round. So, I mean, it does go to show you though, right? Like how many misses there were in those first 24 picks, like guys that got hurt or DeMarco Murray or whatever, right?
Well, I'm just thinking even bigger, like Demaryius Thomas flopped. I know for me, I went CJ Anderson, Demaryius Thomas with my first 2 picks, and that wasn't great. Des Bryant would have, not done well for people.
89 points.
Even Andrew Luck owners, that's, super flex leagues, he would have gone high for sure.
Went 101 in ours, yeah.
So, yeah, there was a lot of guys, Arian Foster, like you said, that would have, really hurt teams. But the thing is, it's overcomeable when you think, it is really a best ball league in essence, because you start so many people. You can flex so many people that I look at it like a best ball, where you can have the tight end 25 off the board in a draft, and there's a chance he's probably going to start for you probably 3 or 4 times, especially when bye weeks roll around.
Right.
And if you draft it almost like a best ball, where you're playing that boom or bust, when those guys hit, there's a good chance they will be in your lineup to help out, because you can hopefully predict when they'll hit based on matchups and things like that. So you have so many flex options that you will probably put them in those favorable matchups, and you just hope that they produce there.
Yeah, and you're starting 11, and without a kicker and a defense, it's 11 positional players, right? So it's a ton of guys, and it's hard to set your lineup when you're not used to playing in that like multi-flex format, right? Especially with super flex.
Especially I find early on in the year, when no one's hurt, no bye weeks, you're really trying to go through the matchups and figure out, you're literally flipping coins a lot of the time, but you want to flip it the right way no matter what.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was tricky. It's tricky to set your lineups, and it's does make the waiver wire a little bit thinner too, right? Because you have so many positional players in play, so you really have to take your shots. You got to take your shots when you have an opportunity, right? Or when you have a gut, or you're planning a week or 2 in advance, as we say to anyways, but in a situation like this, it's even more important.
Well, I just love when there's that one quarterback injury early. You just watch everybody just flock to the waiver wire and put in these bids, and like he had to spend $35 for Kirk Cousins, and it worked out. Yeah.
And that's $35 of the $100 fab. So it is just, we're talking about the draft, just I guess for some people who maybe don't do MFL type slow drafts, this is a slow draft. You had 8 hours per pick, up to 8 hours. And a lot of guys, especially early, it gets done quicker. But that's an interesting thing too, because you're just sitting and waiting for your time. And it's like just watching sand through the hourglass, right? But it's an 8 hour slow draft. You can pre-select, so you can go through and rank guys.
Which I recommend.
Highly.
I pre-selected every pick, and I won a prize for doing it. So go out there and get a free fantasy football book by doing that.
Oh, I didn't know you won a prize for that.
Yeah, it was a book by, I think it was Bob Harris.
You were the fastest drafter?
No, well, there was a tie. There was a few of us that must have pre-selected every draft pick. So
okay.
We had a less than a minute draft average or something like that. So we all got a free copy of this ebook.
So, well, and that's good.
Plus,
also,
it makes everybody happy.
And it's good because on an 8-hour clock, all of a sudden something happens and you don't get your pick in, then you forfeit your pick too, right? So that kind of, you want to make sure that you have at least your ducks in a row just in case as a fallback. And Derek said here he was he spent a week in Jamaica with his wife, and he's got the sorry, I was just finishing reading didn't want to say something and get him thrown under the bus.
Mistress.
But he was there with his wife, but so he did some pre-draft stuff there, or pre-order selection, so that he could enjoy some mojitos on the beach or whatever he was doing. Probably not mojitos, eh? He's a champion. Miami Vice?
Yeah, no. He was probably just drinking Moet right out the bottle. What champions do? I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah, like he's a champ of 360 dudes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Jealous.
Yeah, and the format 360 teams last year, 30 divisions, 12 teams per division, and then those divisions were divided into 6 different conferences. So if you think it's tough for you in your little friends and family home league to make the playoffs, and you're like, yeah, I made the playoffs, and it's hard for you to, win that league. So now imagine you're playing against those 12 guys, and half of them write for different websites or whatever the case may be. And then you break out of that and you're like, okay, I did pretty good in my little 12 man. And now you're playing against the best from the next 12 man, and then the best from the next 12 man, and then the best from all those guys to go through. It's a lot of nail biting. And I know even I think I won a couple of playoff games, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is pretty good, right? And Blister, I know last year too, right? Was it last year or the year before? He was one of the big point guys in the whole thing and choked out in the playoffs, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did well. Him and I think both went well. I can't remember how deep both of us went. I'll be honest, it gets to the point where you're not even looking who you're playing. You're just going, you log in, you set your lineup, because there's just so many crossovers to different divisions for the playoffs, and you don't know if you're in some kind of consolation bracket or winners. And I remember I was just like, I'm just gonna keep setting my lineup until I hear that it's over, and I'll just see if I'm the winner. But I can't remember where we both ended up.
I could probably look back at it and go, but so then he makes some waiver moves too throughout that are pretty key. And I mean, Kirk Cousins, like we said, was a pretty big pick from on the waivers, right?
Yeah, I mean, that turned out to be huge. I mean, that to me, David Johnson being massive down the stretch, and Julio was pretty consistent all year.
And then I'm just trying to see what else he's got here. We don't go right through to 17, right? It was only to week 16.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Never gone that far, so. Yeah,
well, I mean, and he did pick up Spencer Ware too. Now I don't know when he did that, but if he picked him up in, the middle part of the season here, 25 points, 12 points. That's got to be a nice little pick me up around week 9 if that's where he got it. I wonder in the article if he says that.
I closed it actually now too.
Yeah, no, I have it open, but so his team only finishes 7-5, so 4th in the division. All right, and it's enough for him to make the playoffs, and he gets into the wild card round and fights his way through that. And then what happens? David Johnson goes insane.
Well, yeah, he had such a massive fantasy playoff stretch. Like, he was putting up 40-point games, on the regular. It was, like I said, that carried a lot of teams. I think we talked about that during that stretch as we were potting. Like, guys like that are going to win a lot of people championships. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins down the wire, Jordan Reed down the wire, right? They both scored both scored over 33 points in the championship week. David Johnson goes on fire because of the Chris Johnson injury. Julio Jones scores 32. So in that last week, he gets Kirk Cousins over 33 points, Jordan Reed over 32 over 33 points. He's got Julio at over 32 points. Like, he had guys just crushing it, and I guess that's what you what you got to do, right? Yeah,
yep, for sure.
I was just going to take a look at his week. It's not going to be week 17, though. It's got to be week 16. Well, I can't pick the week there. Just because I thought maybe we could see what that head-to-head looked like. Blister's trying to get on right now, and of course having trouble at home. Not earlier he didn't.
No problem in the Chevy.
Yeah, but GMC, isn't it? It's a GM,
Same
isn't it?
thing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
You couldn't. Yeah. Well, you know what I'm saying.
I do.
So he's I think trying to get on here as we speak. So if he gets the app, I don't know why he's having problems getting onto the Blab. You had no problem tonight, right? Getting on?
Me, no.
No. So all right. Well, I don't know what his scenario is, but yeah. So the Scott Fish Bowl, 480 teams going into this year. ScottFishBowl.com if you want to check out some of the stuff, and you can follow along with how the league goes and see how different guys are doing. Follow us and.
Yeah, it's public, isn't it? Anybody can go on
and it's MFL, right? So you can just I'm not logged in at this current second, and I could go on and just see. Then that's the kind of a cool thing about MFL too, is you can just jump on any league and go take a look. I don't think that is there a privacy setting, Slim, on the MFL? Probably.
Yeah, you can turn it off from public.
You see Blisters.
Yep, I'm
texting
telling
here.
them how to.
Okay. So yeah, you can check it out at ScottFishBowl.com, and you can follow along. You could follow along with drafts if you want to check it out on Twitter. If you follow the hashtag SFB Scott Fishbowl 480, guys will be tweeting that way and checking it out. So you can follow along and that, and we'll be tweeting our picks and stuff like that. Also, if you want to follow Scott Fish, because he's a good follow, Scott Fish 24, and the Scott Fish Bowl itself is at SF Bowl. So those are all ways that you can follow along with that. Hey, does Derek, as the defending champ, get in?
Yeah,
he does, right?
I assumed so. I didn't ask him. I just assumed that the champ. I figured it's like winning a major golf tournament. You just get lifetime exemption. You should if you win.
Yeah. I'm just going to check. I don't know. I'm going to search the site here quick. There's no Derek's as far. Oh, these are the analysts that have signed up. There are 360 analysts. So by my math, that's 120 fans.
That's right. There should be 3 fans in every division.
Okay. Is that how it breaks
9
down?
so-called experts, 3 fans. Yeah.
Right.
I believe is how
I do like that he listed as analysts and not experts. I thought that's
yeah. I'm glad because I freaking hate that term.
But it's good branding, isn't it? Or something? No?
What?
I don't know. Analyst? No, I mean expert, because people want to follow an expert.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It sounds pretentious to me, but
yeah, I guess it does. So what else? So that's the Scott Fish Bowl. Again, you follow all that stuff. If you want to become our fan in the league and try to be like Derek and win it all, you can jump on the iTunes or on the Stitcher, rate us and review us, subscribe while you're there too, so you don't have to check and see if we have a new podcast. It'll automatically download for you. And you can do that until midnight, June 26th. And then we will randomly select one of the entrants on June 27th, and we'll contact you and let you know. If you do rate and review us, you can jump on over to the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. And there'll be a link there where you can just quickly fill in some deets so that we get your email address and that type of stuff. So it's easy for us to get a hold of you. If not, we'll announce it on the pod next week, and hopefully you're listening because you listen to this. Deets. Did I say
principal.
Deets?
You're a principal. You can't talk like that.
I can't. No.
You can't wear. You can't wear our local high school gear, and you can't talk like that. Which reminds me, last Friday, the newest superintendent rolled in wearing FHS new hoodie, and I elbowed at the Zooms and said, "Are you looking at this right now? Is someone going to call him out on that?"
Yeah,
just saying.
Yeah, really? Eh?
Yeah.
On a dress down Friday, wearing a hoodie. Wearing a hoodie on a dress down Friday.
When you become an untouchable, I guess you could do whatever you want.
You don't see me rolling a hoodie right now. I'll tell you that much.
Well, I do see you wearing one right now, actually.
Well, right now, right now, but not
on Fridays. No, you probably still wear a collared shirt, right?
Golf shirt. I wear golf shirt all the time.
It's got a collar.
And and hey, I was playing tag with grade ones outside today. Yeah, I can't be wearing a shirt and a tie. How am I going to hustle those kids? And
I'm surprised you can do that with those tight ass pants that you like to wear nowadays.
The moves were
sick. Been down to tag
moves. Nah, well, I'm never it.
You just hurdle them. You can't hurdle in those pants.
Hard. I just go spin moves, man. And today 3 times.
Hey, look over there.
I did that exactly. I was just saying 3 times. Hey, look over there. Whoop. And then they go. They're grade ones. They fall for it every time. But their latest move is to they call it sacrifice, which makes me scared. I'm thinking of like Lord of the Flies. They all mob me, so then there's 15 of them hanging off my legs, and then someone comes up and tags me. So that's not very fair. I don't think. That's not in the spirit of the game. Would you agree? Okay, good.
I would agree.
You agree it's not in the spirit, but I guess it's fair that they're 6.
Don't matter.
Yeah,
these are life lessons. Wow.
Is Blister getting on?
Pretty soon you'll be giving them all participant badges.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
wow.
That is, and it's don't get us started on participation as a way of awarding or assessing marks for phys ed either. That's a nightmare. I have a real, right? The kid tried hard, so he gets marks in phys ed, but if the kid tries hard in math, he doesn't get marks.
I guess.
You know what I'm saying? If we're going to call it a legit course. Anyway, sorry.
We just lost a lot of followers.
Yeah. Well, that's just a question. Hopefully there's nobody out there that just got participation marks and got their way through phys ed. That's one hardcore athletes for hardcore fans here. What else we got? So we're gonna post that article of Derek Meyers on the website too. Again, like I said, hopefully tonight, maybe not until tomorrow. We'll see how editing the pod goes tonight. Why don't we just answer a Twitter question here? It seems like Blister's not going to get on, and let's get out of Dodge. Sorry, it goes with Deets probably too, right?
No, you can say that. You didn't abbreviate anything there.
All right. So first Twitter question that I guess that we've had during this off season now, and of course, who sent it in at Falkbird, our number one Twitter question fan.
Yep.
So
let's go.
Let's go. So at Falkbird, he asked a question. He wants to know about some $1 players that could be worth $10 next year. So is this maybe a dynasty type question, keeper type question?
Yeah, it sounds like keeper. This one was a little bit, I had to look back. I think it's easy to go and just say a bunch of rookies. So I'm going to try not to do that. I'll probably be a couple, but I don't know. Should we start at running back?
Yeah, let's go.
Do you have a few?
I'm just answering Blister, who's getting angry right now. So you name a couple and then I'll go.
All right. Well, I'll start with one. I like Derek McKinnon. I just want to go right now. Sorry. Crap. Of course, I don't have my running backs up. But I think a big thing is going to be what happens to Adrian Peterson this year. If he performs, he should be back in Minnesota, which will hurt McKinnon's value. But I love McKinnon's metrics. To me, he is a really interesting running back prospect. He's just unfortunately stuck behind a Hall of Famer right now. But if that Hall of Famer should get hurt, I think we would see McKinnon really put up big fantasy points. And depending on the nature of this injury, we could see this carry over for him very easily next year. And even if AP starts showing signs of slowing down, all of a sudden McKinnon probably gets more touches, and all of a sudden maybe there's some sort of timeshare next year,
Right.
which would give McKinnon value. So with this athleticism and this big playability, he's a guy that intrigues me. Yes, there's got to be some things that happen. His path is probably not as clear cut as some of the other guys that we might talk about, but for me, his metrics and his ability are going to outweigh anybody at that position. And if I'm going to take a flyer, I want to take it on a guy that is going to be able to blow the roof off of whatever his ceiling is at the moment.
And I'm just trying to figure out at a running back, like I'm just looking through last year's top 50, let's say, and see how that would relate to this year. And I mean, I don't know, I guess you'd have to lean into the, maybe into some of the rookies as far as $1 players at running back.
Well, like I said, I mean, there are a lot of rookies that we could probably talk about because in redraft, they're going to be undervalued just because they're a rookie.
But you're probably not getting them for $1 in a keeper.
I don't know. Depends on the type of keeper. I'll be honest, I don't play in keeper leagues. You play in a keeper league, I guess, not to shit on guys that play in keeper leagues, but I think they're pointless. If you want to play in something like that, then I just think playing a full dynasty, that way you control everything and you can control the whole roster all the time. I mean, to me, if it's a keeper, you're keeping your studs most of the time, probably 90% of the time, unless it's some type of contract league and now you've got to lose them because you can't re-sign them or something like that. If you're doing a 12-person keeper, you're pretty much playing a dynasty, I guess. So if it's a 6-person keeper, I don't see why you would ever keep Derek McKinnon or probably a lot of these other guys that we're probably going to talk about. I would hope that you have 6 guys more of a sure thing than any of these other guys, because right now these guys are all flyers for the future. There's nothing given to them this year yet. Hopefully you got better options.
It's a hard question. I guess you're right, because you don't 100% know the format, right? So
that's the thing.
Are you keeping 3 guys? So there's probably not a lot of $1 players. Like, you're not going to know right now drafting a $1 player saying, oh, he's for sure going to be a.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll look at this. What I'm doing, to me, a $1 player, we're looking at, say, RB or wide receiver 50. I'm looking at guys right now that I have kind of higher than 50 that I think next year is going to be their chance to step up.
So who would be some guys that say at wide receiver that, because that's probably the position, right, where you're going to get $1 players and hold them for 10, most likely, right?
Yeah, well, 2 guys to me that stand out at wide receiver that I think can be immediate impacts even this year. One's Tavon Austin. The second for me is Mohamed Sanu. Tavon Austin, he had caught 52 passes last year only. I think, but he still finished as and it's just funny. I just wrote my St. Louis Rams right up today. So some of this is fresh in my mind. I don't have it in front of me though, but I think he finished as the wide receiver 38 in PPR leagues. And you'd think, 52 catches. How did he do that? Well, it's because he had 52 rush attempts as well. And he averaged, I think, 8 yards a carry on them. So all those little screen, reverses and things, it's a run first offense. They now at least have something probably better at quarterback than what they had last year. And by all accounts, they've realized kind of what they have in Austin, and they're going to try and get him the ball even more. So he had 104 touches last year. To me, why can't that number go up? And all of a sudden now you've got a guy that's approaching maybe low-end wide receiver too. And he could be had for $1. I mean, he's got the playmaking ability. He's their best receiver that they have. He doesn't run a lot of deep routes, but that's okay. In PPR leagues, you want some volume. And I don't necessarily think they have the personnel to, throw the ball deep. So keep taking this underneath stuff, pile up the yards after the catch, get your 3 or 4 rushing attempts a game. Hopefully you keep averaging 8 yards a carry, sprinkle in the odd touchdown, and you're golden. You're laughing. And Mohamed Sanu, I think, to me, I don't like him as a receiver, but I just like the fact, obviously, that he's going to be the wide receiver too, clearly in Atlanta, playing opposite of Julio. I mean, and not that I think Julio's going to get hurt, but if he does get hurt, which has happened in the past, then all of a sudden he just jumps into a wide receiver 1. And a wide receiver 1 in that Kyle Shanahan offense, I don't care who you are, is probably going to get a lot of targets. So just from pure volume, I like Sanu. I don't think he's going to be spectacular, but I think he could definitely be a wide receiver 3. And again, if you get him for $1, that's cheap production right there. Right.
So I'm just looking down the list of some wide receivers that might maybe in that dollar down. Sure. In that late, I don't know if you're ranking them in the 80s or 90s, even, that you might be getting for $1. Is this where a guy like Kenny Stills or Devin Smith or even your boy Chris Connolly or Albert Wilson, those are the guys who they're just all going to be sitting on waivers though, right? But again, it's that keeper. How many are you keeping? Then maybe some of these guys are ranked higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess those guys could. For me, to me, Kenny Stills does nothing for me. He's
Jamison Crowder is another name that I was thinking, but I don't know if you could get him for $1. He's one that I have on
my list. Yep.
Can you get him for $1?
You don't think he would even cost $1?
Well,
is what you're saying.
Well, I'm thinking he'd be worth more, just in a format of a league like that where it's keeper, and let's say you're keeping, I don't know, 5 or 6 or whatever it is. Don't you think that he's a name? I guess not after the draft.
I don't think so. I think it's so packed there, and if it's still just a redraft, I mean, D-Jack still has more value. Pierre Garçon still has equal to probably more value. I mean, he's going to get more targets. Dotson is going to have more value. So, yeah, I mean, I had Crowder on my list. I like him. Maybe not quite so much this year. I think he's still going to be involved in the offense this year. But it's more for when Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon potentially, and I would say most likely, leave after this year. So what happens? Does it Crowder in the slot and then Dotson and then somebody else maybe on the other side? I don't know. Right. But that's, to me, where, he had a decent season last year as a rookie, kind of surprised a lot of people. If he can build on that at all, or even just stay the same, to me, in this offense. I mean, there's a lot of weapons now all of a sudden in this passing game. So if he can just kind of hold the fort until it thins out a bit, to me, that's a good sign. If he's fighting off these veterans like D-Jax and this, talented rookie in Dotson, that to me says if he's, I shouldn't say fighting them off, if he's not losing touches or snaps to these guys, then to me, that's a good sign, even if he doesn't really do too much with them. So yeah, I definitely had him on my list.
Now, what about Josh Gordon? Do you get him for $1? Well, or does he go for more? I guess depending on when you draft too.
Technically, right now he falls into that criteria because he's higher than wide receiver 50 or lower. Sorry, I kind of left him off the list just because, to me, that's kind of low hanging fruit. I mean, we know he's got wide receiver 1 potential if he plays, and we just don't know if he's playing. Anybody that saw him sitting there would just think, yeah, man, for sure, that's a no-brainer guy that if you could get him for $1, could be worth a hell of a lot more. And there's a few. I mean, I look at guys like Devin Funchess. I look at Philip Dorsett. Hell, even Kamar Aiken right now with this Perriman injury. Aiken probably is going to be somewhat involved in this passing game. And if Perriman gets hurt again, then all of a sudden Aiken maybe is the best option that they have.
Right.
So, yeah, there's actually quite a few guys at wide receiver, I think. And, even a couple rookies, someone like Will Fuller, go really late. I mean, a guy who's probably going to be $1 at the most in drafts. I mean, I like him. I don't worry so much about the drops as other people. And I think if he can just show anything this year, especially that he can be used in something other than just running go routes, then that's something to build off for next year. And God knows they need a wide receiver too to play opposite of Hopkins. So I think anybody that can show anything will go into the next year's job as a favorite to have that wide receiver 2 job.
Yeah. Well, I just keep going down this list trying to think like $1 and a keeper. Like, where does that cut off? Like, I'm looking at Fantasy Pros right now just because I'm thinking about consensus, what everyone is more or less thinking. I mean, they've got Sammy Coates down there, and I don't think he goes for $1. For instance, at 65, he's ranked in Fantasy Pros.
Yeah, I don't know. You're probably.
I just think with a buzz around it, and
and that kind of stuff
Smelter
will be somewhat draft
or those
dependent.
guys. Yeah,
and the depth of the draft. Well, Smelter, I don't know. I actually took a screenshot yesterday and sent it to our Smelter owner in our Dynasty League. That one of the experts predicted that, or the beat writers in San Fran predicted he won't even make the 53-man roster right now.
No kidding. Wow. Well, then there you go. He's waiver wire fodder. What about Jeff Janis or Chris Hogan?
I just don't see them having value necessarily next year for me. Janis still to me has an uphill battle. Hogan, I don't know. Even if he does something this year, it's just so hard to with this New England offense, unless you're Gronk or Edelman or something, and just to say, yep, all right, you're going to do that exact thing again in 2017. They're probably bringing 3 bodies to compete with them, and I just have a hard time saying somebody like Chris at this moment. I mean, hey, that could change for sure once we see him in some preseason games and things like that. But I don't know. To me, he seems kind of expendable to them.
And then, is there anything at tight end? Such a strange position to call, right?
Had to go to tight end. To me, like, tight end is so deep this year. I'll be honest, I didn't even really look at it. I don't even know. Give me a cutoff. Where would your cutoff be?
Well, but I'm just still trying to think like who you draft for $1.
Like, is tight end 20?
Yeah, tight end, that's Jordan Cameron as far as Fantasy Pros goes. And if you go lower than that, then it's Clyde Walford, Jared Cook, which I feel is probably got too much buzz to go for $1 in that offense. Charles Clay, Ben Watson.
Well, I think the obvious answer could be Walford. I mean,
but I still feel like he goes for more than $1, though, doesn't he?
I don't know. I just think there's too many options. That, like, I'd rather have Dwayne Allen. I'd probably rather take Jimmy Graham, even at this point, take a flyer if I can get him cheap enough. I'd rather have Gates, Barnage. I don't know. That's where I'm not sure where the cutoff will be necessarily at tight end this year. I think we'll see Gronk go for a lot, and then you might see Kelsey go for less, and then it's going to just pretty rapidly, I think, drop right off after about, the top 5. And it's going to come down to preference, But Ben Watson, he kind of fits in there. I like what he did in the Saints. To me, what does he have in Baltimore? I mean, Pitt might as well retire. Max Williams, I'm not real high on him. Watson, to me, can be a solid kind of guy. And Charles Clay is getting a lot of hype. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of hype. Some hype. Just because he had such a bad year last year, signed that big contract. Tyrod Taylor looks like he's actually capable of being a legit NFL quarterback. And if he keeps improving, then, all of a sudden Charles Clay could get some targets this year. So there's a few guys. After that, I mean, I don't know. I look at Vance McDonald maybe, but that offense is going to be terrible. Maybe someone like Cameron Brate if Austin Sperry-Jenkins keeps being an asshole.
Right, and that was kind of a name I was looking at too, but even in ASJ, it's not going to be $1, right? You're going to have to go all the way down to Brate, and Brate's probably just going to be a waiver wire.
Well, I think once we get to, tight end 30, I mean, let's face it, 12-team drafts, that's more than 2 tight ends a team. I don't think everyone's drafting 3. So especially if it's only a start one. So we're probably gone pretty far for that, but
all right. Well, there's some work for you anyways, Falkbird. And I guess as we move closer to drafts and those types of things and get into camps, we'll have a better idea of some guys that might fit into that zone a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I mean, things will shake out. All these battles. I like particularly watching running back battles. I want to see what Zach Zenner does. I want to see what Wendell Smallwood does. Those are some interesting guys that could go for cheap. And, there's not necessarily real quality guys ahead of them. And if they can somehow carve out this kind of role and just roll with it, you might have lesser versions of David Johnson here kind of second half of the season with those guys. So,
but those are the guys we're looking for, right? They're the guys that
are the winners.
They're the guys that help Blister and Derek Meyers and all those guys. So,
yep.
All right. As I tried to come full circle there and go back to Derek Meyers and how he won a league. Let's call her a podcast. We didn't get Blister on. I don't know. Maybe I need to investigate something other than Blab. It seemed to work well for the two of us tonight, but I don't know what's happening.
I feel like we'll just go and have a little intervention and get to the bottom of this IT team. Take a look.
He heads to Vegas next week, doesn't he? Or the week after next?
Oh. All right, then.
July in Vegas. Should be cool.
I did that.
Ooh.
July 4th weekend. My bachelor party. It was so hot, your sandals would stick to the tarmac.
Oh.
That's no lie.
It's a dry heat, though, Slim. It's a dry heat.
Yeah, it's dry. It's still
a heat,
I'll never
man.
forget coming out of the casino, and it was like being in a sauna where somebody like blows air on you just to be that jerk when it's really hot. That's what it felt like when you walked outside because with the wind, it was unbelievable. It's about the only thing I remember, though.
Speaking of sauna, next week I've got Heels coming into town, and we'll be at the lake in the evening as I come in for work during the week. So I'm sure fantasy football will be a heavy topic of conversation.
Good thing you won't have much to do next week, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully not. Well, I mean, but we got the two of us now have finished the last of the old system, and we're the new guard now, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyways. All right. So hopefully we'll have Blister on next week. It's been a little bit crazy. If you want to enter in to be the fan on in the Scott Fishbowl, or if you just want to support the podcast, head to iTunes, head to Stitcher, give us a rate, review, and subscribe, and we'll do the random draw on the 27th, or you can just support us, and we would appreciate you for that. You can go to the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. We got the preseason rankings up right now, and it probably won't be too long before we have some auction values and average auction values, those types of things starting to get on. And finally, I'm hoping by the end of the week, we will have so around for the 1st of July, we'll have I guess that's next week. But before July, we'll have lots of stuff going into the membership site. So you can head over to the website, click on the members link, and take a look at that. $14.95 gets you the premium auction content that you won't find anywhere else on the internet. You can see the graphic in there that compares what we give compared to all of those other major sites combined. I do see some talk right now through ESPN and CBS in the last little bit because I have a Google alert that pops up when other sites talk about auctions, which happen once in a blue moon, just so you know. I got a Google alert today, which is the first one I got in 2 weeks about a site talking about auctions on the entire internet. So CBS is going to convince you to take to compete in an auction, which you should be already doing anyways, but they're not going to give you the content on to how to win your auction. We're going to do that. So the membership site will give you the premium stuff on that, hundreds of rankings and auction values and premium articles and downloadable content, tier sheets and cheat sheets and all that good stuff too. So that's thefantasyfootballauction.com. Follow Slim at Slim for MVP. Follow the podcast and the website at Fantasy Auction. And I will give Mr. Blister a shout out because he's not here tonight, at Mr. Blister. And I don't know, I got nothing else.
Yeah, that's about it.
Pretty good. We were only going to go for 45. I feel like we did our standard 72.
I don't know.
We started late, but anyways, I'm going to go and do some editing, get this up, and hopefully get Derek Meyers' article up as well. Slim, enjoy your last 3 days of the school year. Yes,
Thank
American followers, we are still in school until the end of the week. And for everyone else, we'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.